I would like to take a moment to thank SimpliSafe for sponsoring today's video. If you'd like to get your own SimpliSafe home security system, you can follow the URL in the video description down below to simplisafe.com/military arms channel. We'll talk more about the home security system here in a moment. Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're going to talk about where are they now. When I read the comments of the videos that we post, I will see comments about various firearms saying, hey, what do you think about this firearm now that you've had a few years to shoot it? And so today's video, I'm going to talk about two of the most common firearms I see brought up in the comments section. The first one is the Kel-Tec RDB, which is the rifle downward ejecting bullpup. I get a lot of questions about that, what I think of it. And then surprisingly, I see this come up quite a bit. This is a Wyndham Weaponry M4 that has an Osprey piston kit in it. It's a drop-in gas piston system that you can stick into pretty much any DI-AR, or you could. We took a look, and the Osprey Defense website is still up and running, but you can't apparently add any products to the cart. You go over to Midway USA and they show the Osprey piston kit as being a discontinued item, and other places will show them available for back order. So I don't know what the status is of the piston system. But before we get into today's video, guys, please, if you enjoy our content, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. A surprisingly small number of you guys that watch our videos take the time to click that subscribe button, so please do that for us. Also, comment down below. It helps us out with the algorithms, plus we love reading those comments. With all that being said, let's get started with today's video. The good old RDB. This rifle is actually extremely forward-thinking, and my opinion of it in that regard has not changed at all. Now, I had a very early gun that had a 1-in-9 twist barrel. This is a later production gun that has the 1-in-7 twist barrel. They have another version of this gun, I think they call the Defender, which has, this one has a 17-inch barrel. They make it now with a 16-inch barrel and some other features, M-lock handguards, things like that. I have not had a chance to get my hands on one of those, but I would love to. The RDB is very lightweight, a lot of polymer, very Kel-Tec-ish in design with the use of polymers. But what's really intriguing about this gun is how it gets rid of the spent case. So with bullpups, all sorts of things have been tried. You know, you have the FS2000 and the MDR that throws spent cases forward. You have rifles that you can, like the Tavor, you can, switch them from right to left hand operation. The ARX100 from Beretta, where you can use the tip of a bullet to eject out one side or the other of the gun just by pushing literally a button. So it's interesting to watch how bullpups and rifles in general try to get rid of that spent case. The RDB does something that's different from most of the other products on the market, and the ejection port is right here behind the magazine well. So it kicks that spent case out and down, or why they call it the downward eject, from this port right here. What's also really, really interesting about the gun is not just the location of the ejection port and how it ejects down, but also the incredible simplicity of the design itself. This is military simple. And I remember telling the guys at Kel-Tec when I first started shooting it that, with some updates and changes like this, there might be some European countries, militaries, or law enforcement departments that might be interested in this thing. But yeah, so anyway, I've not had any problems. I think with the original gun that I had, I broke a hammer at an event. The Kel-Tec was there. They swapped the hammer out for me. That was on the 1-in-9 twist gun, the early production gun. This one has never had any issues. I'll run them with Griffin Armament Comp. Their M4 SD2 suppressors, which just clip onto bird cages. I will run them suppressed. I've had no problems with that. They do have an adjustable gas regulator. They have a big, large charging handle that is non-reciprocating, that you can lock to the rear like an H and K. You can pull it to the rear and rotate it up and lock it to the rear. It does lock open on the last shot fired. You have ambi controls for the bolt release. My index finger's tapping one here, and then on the other side of the rifle, you have a bolt release right there for when it locks open on the magazine when you don't have it locked open like an H&K. It has a magazine release very reminiscent of the original Tavor, which is just a piece of sheet metal you push here that will release the magazine. You have ambi fire controls that are present on both sides of the gun. And it's just a very well-designed gun. And so it uses standard AR-15 magazines. And today we're going to be shooting some Federal 223 55 grain ball. We want to thank our friends over at Federal for supporting us here at the Military Arms Channel. I've been using their ammunition since I was a kid, guys, and I'm absolutely thrilled to work with Federal because I love their ammo, especially their match stuff. So I have 10 rounds loaded into just an OK Industries magazine here, sure feed. 20 rounder. It locks in. If you want to drop the magazine, it's just like the Devore. You can pull your hand back and hit that lever. Some people say that it can be accidentally dropped. I've never ran into that problem with the Devore or with the RDB. Charging the weapon, you just grab the bolt, charging handle here, pull it to the rear, release it, and now she's ready to fire. Again, that folding charging handle is non-reciprocating, so you can have your thumb on it when you're shooting it, and it's not going to hurt you. All right, let's do a little bit of shooting at 100 yards here. Go out to 150. The recoil impulse on this thing is just so pleasant. Because the bolt travels so far, it travels back over the magazine to eject that case. It has this delayed recoil impulse that's just so mild and very, very pleasant. 200. SimpliSafe is one of the top home security companies out there. You can place an order for a customized system online using their website, or you can use a telephone to place an order if you choose to do so. If you get on their website, you can configure your system any number of different ways. They have packages that are already pre-configured, plus you can also add and remove sensors that you may need for your home security system. The SimpliSafe system works on your home's Wi-Fi system and does not require a third party to come into your house to configure your security system. You can do that yourself using the keypad that comes with the system and the base station and your cell phone, either an Android device or an iOS Apple device. So you can easily configure the system. It has 24/7 monitoring available for it. So if the alarm goes off, the police will automatically be notified. You can, as I said, configure it any number of different ways. I have a sample of some of the sensors that they have available. Here we have a smoke detector, a carbon monoxide detector, a security camera, a motion detector, which will detect motion in any room, a glass break sensor, which will detect the breaking of glass in a room. We have a water sensor for down by your sump pump, and entry sensors, which can be placed on doors and windows. You get the idea. And this is just a small sample of the sensors that are available. If you'd like to learn more about the SimpliSafe system, please go by simplisafe.com/military arms channel and check out this home security package and see if it's a right fit for you. So some of the quirks with the RDB. Well, first of all, I love how it gets rid of the spent case. Throwing it back here out behind the magazine well, I think is ingenious. That's a great way to get rid of that spent case that allows for ambi use of the firearm. But the downside is, if you like to shoot off with your offhand supporting the stock like this, now I'm blocking that ejection port. So that's not something you want to do, obviously. So shooting like this is probably not something you're going to want to do. You're going to want to make sure that the support hand is forward and well away from that ejection port so you don't run into problems with causing malfunctions. Speaking of malfunctions, if this gun chokes, you can drop the magazine out and run the bolt, but if you get a double feed or something like that, sometimes you just have to take the gun apart to clear the malfunction. One of the things I remember recommending to KelTec a long time ago is you have this sheet metal cover here. It'd be neat if it was spring-loaded. You could push it forward and hinge it up and have access to the bolt and carrier in the chamber area of the gun. But to my knowledge, they've never made any changes like that. So if you do run into a really hard stoppage, you're going to be field stripping the gun to clear that malfunction. So that would be something that may be of issue for some folks out there. Also, you'll see people complain that the guns are unreliable. I think most of the people that are complaining about that haven't adjusted their gas system. They'll just take the gun out of the box, put some 223 in it, go out and shoot it, and run into problems and say the gun doesn't work. You do need to read the manual, adjust that gas system. Once you get that gas system adjusted, I've never had a problem with them. So I have the two that I have. I've also shot the goofy one that doesn't have the pistol grip on it, and that thing's run just fine for me. So I've never had problems with them. Again, the only part I've ever seen break on one was on the early gun, and the hammer broke, and once it was replaced, it ran fine. And that's the gun I was running suppressed all the time. That gun was just beat to snot with a suppressor. So that may have had something to do with it. All right, so do a little bit more shooting with this bad boy here. When you want to clear the gun out, you drop the magazine. Make sure you run that bolt a few times. Make sure there's nothing in the chamber because you can't really physically inspect the chamber. You can kind of sort of look up to the mag well, but without a flashlight, it's kind of hard to see in there. Put your magazine in right there. And watch that ejection how it just throws them out right behind the magazine well. Helps if you get the magazine in. The other thing is it has a really good trigger on it. It's a nice, light, crisp trigger. It's not that really bad, stagey, creepy, early 1977 era Steyr AUG trigger. It has a good trigger for a bullpup. So let's take a look inside of the gun, because I really want to show you the simplicity that still continues to this day impress me. And this is probably the thing that I like most about the RDB. The RDB is pretty simple to take apart. Now, sometimes you might struggle with the takedown pins. You know, my early gun, I struggled with more. This one, the pins move more freely in it, but the pins should be captive. My early gun, sometimes the pins would pop out from their retainers and they wouldn't be captive, but you just need a good takedown tool like the tip of a bullet. And I just pop this forward pin, it's captive, and the front handguard comes right off the rifle. And now you can see the gas system on the gun. This is the recoil spring guide. The bolt carrier's locked to the rear, and you can see how the gas system works right here. Pretty simple, but it even gets more simple as we get into the gun. I'm gonna go ahead and pop out the 3 takedown pins. Up, see, right there. I just yanked it right past its little... It's supposed to be captive. There, it's captive, but you can pull them out too far. All right, and then the lower just comes off the gun like that. And then to take the upper apart, you just pull rearward. Take that big sheet metal piece off. That's just covering the action. And this is the action of the gun. So you can see the bolt carrier. Here's the recoil spring guide rod. And when the gun cycles, that simple. And then this is the recoil spring. You can see how it's integrated into the system. Very, very simple. One pin. You have a firing pin in here with a spring on it and a bolt that's, you know, very kind of sort of reminiscent of the AR-15. It definitely has its own profile there. Has 2 ejectors. And then you get into the lower housing. This is all polymer. This is actually your hammer right here. So when you put the weapon on fire, pull the trigger, that goes forward, hits the firing pin. And yeah, very, very simple. This blows my mind in terms of simplicity. It's really, really cool how much thought had to go into this to make it so simple, and the fact that it draws that spent case back over the magazine well. So you have the magazine right there. The bolt rides back over that round, cocks the hammer, throws the spent case out behind the mag well, and then comes home, picks up a fresh round. And that's what I'm talking about, that extra travel. That bolt and carrier seems to really play into how mild the recoil impulse is for this thing. Again, this is just a sheet metal cover that goes over. All right, take the lower, put it back on the gun. Once you get those pins lined up, they should just go right through. All right, and then put the handguard back on. Like that. And that's it. I mean, that is as simple as it gets. That's probably one of the simplest bullpups on the market. I really, really enjoy shooting this thing. The Osprey system was, I'm assuming they're not making them anymore. It's, again, we've found mixed results on the web. The Osprey Defense website doesn't appear you can add any products to the cart. Midway USA shows them as discontinued. So I'm not sure what the status is of the company or these piston systems. But I've had this gun for a long time. We've used it for a test bed for suppressors and things like that over the years, and it's always worked. I've never had a problem with it. The only issue that we found was with the gas piston. We wound up running an H2 buffer in it with a Redco, I think it's a Springco Red, spring in there to kind of slow that bolt carrier velocity down a little bit, because it seems like a really overgassed M4 otherwise if you just run a standard carbine buffer and spring in there. But the other thing, if I recall, is you had to find handguards that would work with the gas system. So basically, the Osprey allows the end user, and yes, the gun is empty. The gas system, I'm going to go ahead and lock the bolt to the rear here. The gas system is easily replaced by the end user. So what you do is you drive out your pin, your roll pin here in your front sight block, and then you can take your gas tube out, and then you replace the whole system with the Osprey system. And this is basically it right here. This is your gas expansion chamber. This is your actual piston. And this is the rod that goes back into the receiver through the existing hole that would be used by the direct gas impingement gas tube. And then when you take a look on the inside of the gun, of course you have to swap out the bolt carrier, and that's your bolt carrier. So instead of the gas key, you have a tappet there for the gas system to act upon. You'll also notice that it's beveled here on the back of the bolt carrier to deal with any issues of carrier tilt, but I don't see any damage to the receiver from carrier tilt, so it doesn't seem to be much of an issue with this particular gun. This is some goofy charging handle. I forget who made it, but boy, how charging handles have changed over the years. It's, yeah, this is an ambi release. Yeah. I think I like the Radian system. So that's the Osprey gas system. It's a very interesting system. I remember watching videos back in the day where they're pouring sand over the gas system and firing the gun and it's working. Well, I can do the same thing to a DI gun. I can pour sand over the gas tube and it's still going to work. So I've never been a big fan of gas pistons in AR-15s. I think it's a solution to a problem that simply does not exist. If you go back and take a look at our BCM torture test video, we're well over 7,000 rounds through a BCM without even so much as oiling it, without a single malfunction in 7,000 rounds, and that is the internal piston / direct gas impingement system in that gun. And the whole point of that video series is to prove that things like this really just aren't necessary. But for the longest time, people thought, man, pistons are the way to go, convert every AR-15 to a piston gun, and this was an easy drop-in kit solution that I think actually works pretty well. I've never had any problems with it. I don't recall reading a lot of problems with this particular system. And so, yeah, let's do a little bit of shooting with it. I'm gonna leave the top cover off. Without slow motion, you're not really gonna see the gas piston working probably, but we'll see. Has, you know, perfect ejection. We've never seen it do anything erratic with the ejection. And so, yeah, I mean, the system really seems to work pretty darn well. And it's held up to suppressor use, and it's held up to just regular use. I wiped it down today just to take a look at the parts, and everything still moves freely, nothing seized up after setting for quite some time. Pretty interesting. So the only downside is you may not be able to find them anymore. And handguards that it works with, I think, are fairly limited in numbers. If I can even remember how to get this thing back together here. Ugh. All right, there you go. So, do I think it's a worthwhile investment? The last price I saw on the Osprey Defense website was $349. Before they were discontinued or shows discontinued on other retailer sites, I think they're like $299. So it certainly was a cost-effective way to convert your gun to a gas piston if you just absolutely had to have one. But yeah, I mean, the system works. It's okay. If you're married to the idea of having a gas piston in your AR and you think it really helps you with reliability, then maybe you can find one of these kits somewhere. I've been pretty impressed with the functionality of this thing. Again, it's caused us no issues whatsoever, and we've not been kind to it. I hope you guys enjoyed the update video regarding the Osprey gas system and the RDB from Kel-Tec. if you guys can find an Osprey out there for sale and you want to play with one, I mean, if you can pick it up for 300 bucks, it seems like a pretty good deal if you just want to try a gas piston in your AR-15. It's just not something that I would seek out and do. I'm perfectly fine with the internal piston / DI of the AR-15. The RDB continues to impress me. I love it. I think it's a great bullpup. These things retail for right around $1,000. And so if you can find one, if you're interested in dabbling in the bullpup arena, this is a good place to jump in, I think. It's a really interesting gun. If you do run into any problems, Kel-Tec has always been really good about rectifying those problems. But again, I've never had any real issues with mine outside of breaking that hammer early on with what would be probably pre-production parts. So all in all, I think this is a really cool gun. I would love to see this thing evolve even more, because with a few improvements like being able to clear malfunctions and stuff more easily, I really think this gun could be a serious contender for, you know, military law enforcement type contracts. But that's just me. Guys, if you enjoy watching videos like this, consider supporting us over on Patreon. We are supported by our viewing audience, and we've built a really cool community over there. There's a link down below to Patreon. You get direct access to me. I answer all private communications, and also you get early access to videos like this one, and of course access to that community of, you know, supporters over there that interact with each other on a daily basis. Also, right here on YouTube, guys, there's a little join button underneath the video player you're watching right now. Click that join button and consider supporting us right here on YouTube. And last but not least, guys, please swing by and check out coppercustom.com. Thank you for 13 years of support. We'll talk to you guys soon.